I'd like to share a personal experience with you today. Just weeks before our wedding, I discovered my fiancée was unfaithful. I ended the engagement and, at the age of 35, started dating again. I was engaged to my ex for 3 years. We were set to get married in June this year. We went to the same college for over 2 years, but we weren't really friends or in the same group. We just knew each other as acquaintances. It was after college that we met again at a friend's party. We reconnected and started dating after that. After 2 years together, I thought it was time to make it official. I proposed to my fiancée, who was working with her friend at a thrift store temporarily. She wasn't interested in working after marriage, so I proposed again when I thought I was financially ready to take care of my family and take on its responsibilities. Everything was going well. We were already living together and were all set to get married. That is, until I realized that something was up with my fiancée. She stopped being her usual self. She used to make excuses every time I tried to get close to her. We stopped being intimate, as she always made some excuses. She said she was stressed about the wedding or that she had a headache. It did seem a bit strange, but I told her it was fine. When I tried to talk to her about it, she said it was the stress from the wedding preparations, which seemed reasonable. I discussed this with my friends on our guys' night, and many of my friends were married. Some even had children. They told me that their wives had also started acting differently before their wedding. Apparently, it was common for brides to feel all giddy and panicky. This made me feel a bit better, and I let it go. Then I wanted to help my fiancée with the preparations, but I had a big project at work that I had to focus on. My promotion depended on it. I told her I felt bad that she had to do everything by herself. She told me it was fine, and that she had help from my best friend. So my best friend, M35, was helping my wife with the wedding preparations. We'd been best friends since school. Since school days, he'd been close friends with my fiancée too, so he was also my best man at the wedding. I was really grateful that he and my fiancée got along so well. I didn't want that dynamic where my best friend and fiancée didn't like to see each other's faces. My best friend was going through a bad breakup at that time. His long-term girlfriend had dumped him over a call for someone she found on her vacation. It was a rough breakup. I thought that, sitting alone at the house he shared with his ex, my girlfriend could be a handful, but the wedding preparations were a great way to keep his mind occupied. I was so excited about getting married to the woman of my dreams that everything seemed perfect. Even putting in long hours at work didn't seem to exhaust me, because I wasn't doing all this hard work just for me, but for my future family as well. I started to notice that something was wrong at that time. Even though I was working long hours, my fiancée would get home later than me, and I was already coming home late. I asked her where she was going, and she made some vague excuse about how shopping is hard for a bride. I believed her at the time because I couldn't imagine her lying to me, even though I tried to believe what she told me. Something inside me told me that she wasn't telling me the whole truth. One day it was a Sunday, and I had thought of spending the whole day with her without any work or distractions. But she had told me that my fiancée was going for her dress fitting. I was in the shower and her phone was in the bed. It was getting notifications non-stop. I was asleep but woke up to the continuous vibrations. I took her phone to see who was texting her so much. We both had Face IDs on each other's phones and also knew each other's passcodes. However, her phone didn't recognize my face. It didn't recognize my face. I then put her passcode in, but it said the wrong passcode, which threw me off. We'd shared our passwords with each other soon after we started dating. We never saw it as a big deal. Now, though, we're so close to getting married, she's changed her passcode. When she came out of the shower and saw her phone in my hand, she seemed a bit panicked at first, but quickly composed herself. I asked her why she changed her password. She seemed surprised by my direct question. She took a second to reply and then told me it's because there are pictures of her wedding dress and she doesn't want me to see that before the wedding day. Her excuse seemed plausible at the time, but I kept thinking, I never checked her phone anyway, so she could have just told me this instead of changing her passcode. It was a small thing, but it was on my mind all day. The next day, while I was at work, my fiancé's best friend called. She said she couldn't reach my fiancé, and they were getting late for the dress fitting appointment. I told her she must be at home, but I asked if they had the appointment the previous day. She replied as if I was asking a ridiculous question. The store was closed yesterday. She then hung up, saying my fiancé had replied to her. I was sure now that my fiancé was hiding something from me. She lied to me about going to her dress-fitting appointment. I needed to find out what she was lying about. I didn't think I'd ask her directly, because I didn't want to give her another reason to avoid the truth. I was still at work when my best friend, who was helping my fiancé with the wedding, called. I hadn't heard from him in a while, so I was surprised to get a call. He was either at his office or helping my fiancé with some wedding stuff. He started talking to me, asking how I was doing. I told him I was fine and asked him what was going on. We talked for a bit, and then he asked if something was wrong. I thought about whether I should tell him or not about my fiancé's lie, but then I decided to tell him. I told him how she told me that she was going to the atelier, but then her best friend called today and said that they had the appointment today instead of yesterday. Oh, you're getting worried over nothing, he told me. I asked him how he knew. He was so sure, and then told me that yesterday my fiancé had gone for the dress fitting for the dress she was wearing at the dress rehearsal, and today's appointment was for the wedding dress. I still wasn't sure if I should believe him or not, and asked him how he was so sure about the truth. He said that he knew because he was helping my fiancé with the wedding preparations, and we were in constant contact about everything related to the wedding. I believed him and even felt guilty for doubting my fiancé. My best friend's explanation seemed reasonable. He was talking more with my fiancé than he was talking to me, so it made sense that he knew what was actually going on. I was relieved, and then got back to my work. Everything went fine for days after that. My fiancé was still acting differently, but she'd told me various times that everything would be fine. One day, I told my fiancé that I'd be home late as I had a client meeting over dinner. She didn't seem disappointed or sad about it. I won't be home, she just told me okay. The client meeting got rescheduled to the next day. When I got home, my fiancé wasn't there. It was already late, so I called her up and asked where she was. She told me she was at home, but she kept talking about how she missed me and was waiting for me to get back. I heard her. She was lying to me as I looked for her in the whole house. She finally asked me when I would get home. I told her I was already home and waiting for her. I then hung up the call. She got home within half an hour. I made a mental note to remember that she was within that distance. I wasn't going to trust whatever she told me now. My fiancé didn't come back empty-handed. She got all the groceries and other stuff. I didn't even have to ask her to explain to me what had happened. She started explaining to me herself how she was going to cooking classes. She told me she was learning cooking as a surprise for me, which is why she didn't tell me that she wasn't at home. I told her that she didn't need to lie to me about such small things. I told her that as my partner, I expect complete honesty from her. She was honest with me. She nodded and then came and hugged me. I hugged her back, but I was on high alert now. I tried to kiss her, but she turned her head and said that she should put the groceries in the refrigerator. I knew there was something going on with my fiancé, and I made it my mission to find out. There were too many things to ignore, including the lie she told me today and the lie she told me the other day. She also seemed different. Her passcode didn't make sense, but I was determined to find out why she was lying to me that night. I lay on my bed, thinking about why she was lying to me. None of the reasons made sense except one: she was cheating on me. I felt a bit guilty for doubting the woman who was going to be my wife in a few weeks, but there was another thought as well. I needed to find out what was going on before we got married. If my suspicions were true, it would be a disaster. I didn't want a life like that. I thought about sharing this with my best friend, but for some reason I thought it was best if I didn't. He was already going through a bad breakup. Listening to my suspicion wouldn't be good for his mental health. I decided that I'd find out what was going on alone. It was better not to tell anyone, because if it turned out that there was nothing to worry about, I'd have wasted my time. I was really hoping for some kind of answer, but I didn't want to trouble anyone for nothing. So I started keeping an eye on my fiancé's activity. I checked the CCTV camera placed outside our home to see who all was coming to my house in my absence. The CCTV camera didn't give out anything. It was my fiancé living in the house shortly after I left for work, and then getting home really late. I already knew that without the help of CCTV. I kept thinking as to what could help me more, but nothing came to my mind. I could have used her. I could have used her phone, but she'd changed the passcode. There was only one option left: follow her and see where she was going. It seemed a little too much to me, but I needed to find out the truth before our marriage, so I decided to follow her around. The next day, I told her I was leaving for work. I left the house but didn't go to work. Instead, I parked my car a few lanes ahead of our house and waited for her to leave the home. I kept checking the front camera to see when she left the house. As soon as she left the house, I followed. I started following her, but I kept a lot of distance between my cars and hers, so she wouldn't know I'd gone to the thrift store and stayed there for a while before going to the florist. After that, she went back home. I felt like an idiot for doubting her. She was just doing normal things, but those things she did were still stuck in my head. I thought that just because she didn't do anything different, it doesn't mean there isn't something going on. It'll just take time to figure it out. I thought I'd follow her. I decided to wait another day or two, and if I still couldn't find anything, I would let this suspicion go. Everything was fine when I got back home that evening. I repeated the same thing the next day. My fiancée didn't do anything out of the ordinary that day either. I knew something was wrong, but she wasn't doing anything different these 2 days. I got the feeling that maybe she knew that I was following her, but I quickly dismissed it. I haven't told anyone, and I also made sure that there was enough. On the third morning, I followed my fiancé's car to work. I got a call from my best friend about my bachelor party. I told him I was good with whatever he wanted to plan. There was a lot of background noise, including some very loud songs. I recognized one of them as an old Spanish song. I couldn't ask him where he was, because I got another call from work. I had to go to the office urgently for some work. I thought there wasn't much point in following my fiancée around anyway. She was doing the same things in her routine, only I went to the office and did some work. Our jeweler called to say that my wife still hadn't given her ring size. They didn't have her number, so they called me. I then called my wife to ask for her ring measurement. What surprised me was that as soon as she picked up the call, loud old Spanish songs were playing in the background. I asked her where she was, and she told me that she was with her best friend, who isn't my wife. I told her what the jeweler had said. She said that I suggested that we go to the store in the evening and give her ring measurement to them. I ended the call, but something didn't seem right. Maybe it was a coincidence that I heard loud old Spanish songs in the background of my fiancé and my best friend, but I didn't think it was just a coincidence. I called my best friend again and asked him where he was. He told me he'd gone to a cafe for a client meeting. My friend worked in an event management company, so he'd offered to help out my fiancé. However, when I heard a high-pitched laugh in the background, I knew who it was. I heard a familiar laugh in the background. I knew it was my fiancé's laugh. He immediately stopped laughing, and my friend made an excuse and ended the call. My fiancé and my best friend had no reason to lie to me. If they were together, they would have told me. They used to hang out together, especially about weddings. So why did they lie to me? I think they lied to me. I had a feeling I knew the answer, but I didn't want to accept it too quickly. I decided to wait until I had something more substantial to call them out. That evening, I didn't go directly to my house after work. Instead, I went to my best friend's place. His car wasn't there. I checked the time. It was 6. I checked the time when I got home, and it took me only 23 minutes to get there from his place. My fiancée told me she was coming from cooking class, and it took her the same amount of time. At this point, I just knew that both of them were lying to me. I needed to see for myself. I went inside my house and my fiancée wasn't there. I freshened up and kept thinking about what was going on. I was about to get married, and my fiancée was cheating on me with my best friend. I still had a small hope that all my fears would go away, and my suspicion would, as it turned out, I was wrong. I really hoped I was wrong. The next day, I followed my fiancée again. She still went to the thrift store like she normally did. She did all her usual stuff. I was getting frustrated because I couldn't find any evidence. Then I saw my best friend entering the thrift store. This didn't help. I still don't have any proof. Maybe he was just dropping by to help her with the wedding stuff. He left the thrift store after 45 minutes or so. I still don't have any solid evidence to either confirm or deny my suspicions. It was really getting frustrating. The next morning, I was having breakfast, but then I remembered that I had forgotten my file. I went to get it in the bedroom and saw my fiancée getting dressed after her shower. I was just passing by her when I noticed the hickey on her shoulder blades. It wasn't me who gave her that because it's been more than a month since we've been intimate. I stopped by her and she seemed surprised. As I stopped there, I traced my finger on the hickey, which made her shiver. It was the scary kind. I didn't even have to ask her who did it. She started her explanation on her own. You know, yesterday I was wearing off-shoulder tubes and an insect bit me there. It hurt a lot. Yesterday I told her that it doesn't seem like an insect. I was pretty shocked, so I started asking her more questions to get to the truth. I didn't say anything after that, and just got more determined to find some proof to back up my suspicions. The first thing I did as I got in my car was to check the CCTV recording from the previous day. As I suspected, my fiancée wasn't wearing an off-shoulder top the previous day. I saw her getting in the car in a dress that fully covered her shoulder. I spent that day following my fiancée around. I finally got something that day. I saw my fiancée. I went straight to my best friend's house and saw him coming out and hugging her. They went inside and stayed there for almost the whole day. I knew that if I went there, my doubt would be confirmed, and I'd find them in bed with each other instead. Instead of ringing the doorbell, I used the extra key my friend had given me long ago. He also had my house key in case of an emergency. I opened the door quietly and went inside. I saw my fiancée's purse on the couch in the living room. I followed the noise to the bedroom. I took slow, quiet steps so I didn't make any noise and finally reached the bedroom. I could hear their voices clearly. My fiancé was telling him how I almost caught her today. You know, he saw the mark on her neck. We have to be more careful from now on. My best friend hummed something, and after that, all I could hear were sexual sounds. I opened the door very slowly and saw my fiancé in bed with my best friend. I took a photo of them with my phone and then shut the door. I got to the living room just as the bedroom door opened again, and my fiancé came out laughing. I turned to look at her, but her smile vanished as soon as she saw me. She was wearing my best friend's shirt and nothing else. She stood there frozen, and my best friend, who'd followed her out, also froze as soon as he saw me. As soon as he saw me, I was so angry that I couldn't think straight. I just went and punched my best friend in the jaw. I told my fiancé that I didn't want to see her face ever again and left his house without waiting to say goodbye. I went straight home rather than going to work. I had no energy for going to work, even though I had to. I had a feeling that my best friend and my woman were both hurt by this betrayal. As I was getting out of my car, my fiancé had also reached home. I asked her to leave my property, but she didn't listen and followed me inside. She was in tears as she begged me to listen to her. I knew that nothing she could say would make it okay for what they had done. I thought, why not let's hear this? I told her to speak. She first went into shock, wondering how she could have agreed, but then started telling me everything. It all started when she started planning our wedding after my best friend's breakup. She said that she was just consoling him as he was really low because of the breakup. Then, one thing led to another. It led to another, and they started kissing. She said it never meant to be anything more, that she was just helping him move on. I was shocked. I couldn't believe she was sleeping with him. I was angry. I told her she was helping him move on by sleeping with him. She got tense at my voice, but then started telling me how sorry she was. She said she'd do anything to make me forgive her. She told me we had our whole life in front of us, and that she couldn't let it go because of one mistake. The more she spoke, the angrier I got. She said I should let go of her cheating like it was nothing. I'd already told her how important loyalty was to me. She did that. I was really lucky to find out before the wedding. Then I thought, I could easily end our relationship right now and tell everyone that the wedding is off. The wedding was in 5 days. Or I could make her and my best friend actually suffer for the betrayal. I decided to go with the second one. The second option was to let my fiancée plead some more. She kept saying how everything could be perfect from now on. She said this was our chance to start afresh and start our dream life together. I let her convince me not to cancel anything and to let loose at the bachelor party. She said it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing and that everyone was coming anyway. It was a once-in-a-lifetime thing and all our guests were coming before so they could attend the bachelor party as well. I thought it was perfect, and then I agreed to not cancel anything. She couldn't believe that this was happening. She must have thought that there was no chance that I could forgive her for cheating, and she was right. She was going to find out later what I did with the cheaters. The day of the bachelor party came, and I met my best friend again. He said he wanted to come to my house instead of the club. As soon as he came in, he started saying sorry and explaining that he didn't mean to. I told her it was okay, and I forgave them. I told them that everyone makes mistakes, and I was giving them another chance. I went to the venue with him and met my other friends. I didn't know that I was faking it here and had no intention of actually doing this or whatever I was acting. I was having a great time that night, but I kept thinking about their betrayal. My fiancée was staying at her parents' house until the wedding, which was probably for the best. I couldn't stop thinking about her betrayal. My thoughts kept going back to the day he called me up and told me. He lied to me because she was with him. They must have known that I had talked to her best friend and knew that the store was closed. I had decided that I was going to end everything over dinner so everyone knew what had actually happened and why the wedding was being called off. My fiancée was coming with her parents to dinner. I reached the venue earlier and spoke with the staff to arrange a projector for me. The guests started arriving. Everyone in our immediate families and our closest friends were present for the dinner. New, but I had told her. The officiant was a bit late, which made my fiancée a bit nervous. I smiled at her and told her it was fine. I then told everyone that I had to share something with them while the officiant got here. Someone in the wedding party said I could wait to make. I told everyone I'd save the toast for later. I started my speech by telling everyone how I met my fiancée and how our relationship had been so perfect. My fiancée looked at me with tears in her eyes, but she was smiling too. She was smiling because she didn't know what was coming next. I told her that I told everyone how grateful I was for everything she had done for me. I said that she had always put me and my family first. I also said that she is the most thoughtful woman. She thinks so much about others that she even started sleeping with my best friend just to help him move on. As soon as I said that, everyone got tense. My fiancée froze in her spot. There was a pin-drop silence in the hall as I moved my attention to my then best friend. I told everyone how we have been best friends since school. I shared a memory of how in school we punched a guy because he asked out my best friend's then girlfriend. I told everyone that they were like a brother to me. I showed them the picture I had taken that day on my phone, and they all gasped when they saw my fiancée and my best friend in bed together, naked. I went over to her, but she was facing the floor. I told her to never come in front of me again. I asked for my ring back. I didn't really care about the ring, but I didn't want this woman to have that piece of commitment from me. She gave it to me with shaky hands. I told her that I had already called the movers to move her stuff, so she better not enter my property. I thanked everyone for coming and told them the wedding was over. Yun was shocked. It was obvious the wedding wasn't going to take place. I told her I'd send her the bill for everything came as a shock to her. I just shrugged and told her that she wasn't responsible anymore. Her infidelity was the reason we were calling off the wedding, so it was obvious that she was going to pay for it. I left the hall and never looked back at my fiancé or at my best friend. They didn't try to convince me to let things go this time, or to do anything else. The movers came in the next day and took away all her stuff. I made sure that nothing of hers was left behind, so she couldn't have any excuse to come back to my place. I didn't have to send her the bills. The vendors communicated with her directly. I didn't speak to her directly since she was in charge of the wedding, and she didn't have the courage to send those bills to me. I blocked her on all social media platforms, including her number. I didn't want any negativity from her in my life. I continued with my life with my head held high, even though someone told me that my fiancé couldn't meet anyone's eyes and therefore went to another state to live with her cousins for some days. My best friend never tried to contact me either. After that day, he sent my house keys to me through our mutual friend. Everyone knew about their betrayal, and no one was talking to them. They were facing the consequences of their own actions. I can't help it. I'm just living my life. I know I was faithful to my fiancé and a good friend to my best friend, so I don't deserve what they did to me. I'm taking therapy sessions to move on from this and lead a happy life. Thanks for listening to my update. It's been 6 months since I last posted, and it's been about a year since I called off my wedding. I found out through a mutual friend that my fiancé started dating my best friend. She's the one he slept with. They started dating 2 months after the wedding was called off. They were happy at first, but as soon as other people found out, they became the topic of gossip. They started having problems too, and that's when my best friend started cheating on her with someone from his office. She found out about this a few months later and broke up with him. As soon as I found out, I thought I'd share it with you all here, since I've already shared a lot of other things. Hello everyone. Since she was blocked everywhere, she approached me at this party and started asking for my forgiveness. She said it seemed fitting to ask for forgiveness at a party, since everything began with a party. I laughed and told her that even if she was the last person on the planet, I wasn't getting back together with her. She got quite embarrassed as I was standing with a group of people. Everyone started laughing after that, and she quickly ran away and never tried to approach me again. My best friend is her ex. My best friend also tried to approach me after they broke up. He told me that he didn't come earlier because he thought it was best to give me space. He started telling me how my friendship was the most important thing to him. He said it meant more to him than any girl would ever mean. I asked him if that was the case, why did he date my ex? My fiancé was shocked when I called off the wedding. He thought I didn't know about them. I laughed and told him that I knew everything. I just didn't care. I told him I don't want friends like him in my life anymore. As far as I'm concerned, therapy helped me a lot. I have learned that I cannot carry the burden of others' mistakes on my shoulders. I've started to move on. The betrayal I went through doesn't hurt so much now. I'm also quite happy with my life. I got the promotion at work for which I was working really hard. I have some good friends who helped me when I felt low. My family has also been really helpful. I tried to stay at my home, but there were too many memories with my ex. I've decided to sell my old place and move to a new property. My friends and family have been really helpful in settling in here. I'm now seeing someone from work. She knows about my past and is very supportive. We're getting to know each other. I'm taking it slow, but who knows? With time, I might find out she's the one. I'm just taking my time with things. It's hard for me to trust people completely, but I'm trying. I was heartbroken after the betrayal, but time actually heals everything. At that time, I had thought I wouldn't date anyone ever again, but look at me now. I take everything that happened to me as more of a lesson to never trust anyone too much. People can always deceive us. Another thing this has taught me is that we should be sure about people like life partners, and my fiancée wanted to marry me because it would give her a comfortable life, whereas I had thought it would be a love match. I was wrong. It turned out to be a case of one-sided love. She knew that if she married me, I'd take full responsibility for her. That was the biggest reason why she wanted the wedding so badly and even came to me after her breakup. Anyway, thank you for all the support you've shown through comments. It means a lot to me. If you have or are going through something similar to what I did, please believe when I say that time actually helps in healing every wound.